Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. Today is day 7 of Hidden Figures, and today's hidden figure is Caroline Tracy Dye, better known as Aunt Caroline, who was born around 1843 and died on September 26, 1918. A highly respected seer, spiritualist, and root worker, called one of the most celebrated women ever to live in the Midsouth. Dye amassed a fortune, investing in real estate and owning 8 farms at the time of her death in 1918. Caroline Tracy's parents' names are unknown, and there has been conflicting information about her date of birth and early life. A 1918 obituary described her as being 18 years of age at the start of the Civil War, which would put her born around 1843. She was also listed as age 27 on the 1880 census records. She was born into slavery in Spartanburg, South Carolina, as the property of the Tracy family, and lived her life in bondage until being freed after the Civil War in 1865. Tracy later moved to Elgin, South Carolina, where she married Martin Dye on June 16, 1867. They had one child, a girl named Mary, who passed away as an infant. Through the years, they took in and raised several children who were not their own and also took care of the mentally ill. After Dye and her husband moved to Newport, Arkansas, her reputation as a soothsayer began to grow. Historian John Quincy Wolf wrote that in a 400-mile radius from Newport, Aunt Caroline was as well known as President Woodrow Wilson. Clients from all over the South came to Arkansas for her to tell them their fortunes, with an especially strong following from Memphis, Tennessee. So many arrived in Newport from Memphis that one train was known locally as the Caroline Dye Special. Newport, only 100 miles north of Memphis, grew rapidly after the Civil War as a trading and merchant outpost. Wolf also reported that her home was a large structure on Rimmel Street, not far from the business district, and the people poured out of the Rock Island trains on their way to her house. When the crowds hit the boardwalk at 2nd Street, it sounded like an army, says a Newport woman. Another tells of earning dimes and quarters when she was a little girl by carrying people down to where Aunt Caroline lived. I would meet the trains, and when people would ask me where her house was, I would offer to lead them there. I made a lot of money. Sometimes buggies and cars crowded the street, lined up end to end for several blocks around her house. Dye did not call herself a fortune teller, did not advertise, and did not charge for her readings, but her clients paid what they could anyway due to her reputation as being extremely accurate. She reported that she received 20 to 30 letters a day, with most including money for her services. Revered by blacks and whites alike, many prominent white businessmen and affluent citizens sought out her services, refusing to make important decisions before consulting her, including one governor-elect who refused to be inaugurated until she gave her blessing on the date, according to a New York Times article published January 6, 1909. People crowded into her home in Newport to get a reading, inspiring Dye to add to her fortune by also selling them meals from her house. She invested in farmland and real estate with the money she earned, purchasing Liberty bonds and gold bricks, many of which she is rumored to have buried around Newport. Dye didn't read palms or use the paraphernalia popular amongst fortune tellers of the time period, such as crystal balls, and instead only used a deck of cards. She refused to give readings about love or the outcome of World War I. An example of her work was giving visions of the future, revealing the location of strayed or stolen livestock, and helping people to locate missing items and persons. She used a small room for private consultation with those who sought her help and would decline to offer readings for people if she saw nothing in their futures. Caroline Dye died on September 26, 1918 in Newport, Arkansas. She is buried in Gum Grove Cemetery in Newport next to her husband, who had died in 1907. At the time of her death, Dye was a wealthy landowner, rental property entrepreneur, and famous seer despite never having learned to read or write. It is rumored that stacks of cash were found in her home, with some saying as much as $9,000, worth over $180,000 today, was removed from her house and put in the bank as a part of her estate. As she had no children of her own, the bulk of her estate went to her nephew and to a 13-year-old girl that she had adopted several years earlier and raised. Her tombstone in the cemetery at Newport reads, Caroline Dye, the sunbeam of the world, died September 26, 1918, 108 years old. Dye is considered a blues legend due to being the subject of many famous Delta blues songs, including St. Louis Blues and Sundown Blues by legendary Memphis singer W.C. Handy. Willie Dixon mentions Aunt Caroline in his 1961 song Wang Dang Doodle, first recorded by Howlin' Wolf. Johnny Temple's Hoodoo Woman is about her, and she was also immortalized in the famous blues song Aunt Caroline Dyer Blues by Memphis Jug Band, recorded on May 29, 1930. And some of the lyrics go, "Well, I'm going to Newport News just to see Aunt Caroline die. I'm going to Newport just to see Aunt Caroline die. She's a fortune-telling woman, Lord, and she don't tell no lies." 30 years after recording Aunt Caroline Dyer Blues, Memphis Jug band leader Will Shade was interviewed for the book Conversation with the Blues and said this about Dye. "She was a fortune-telling woman, a two-headed woman. She'd call you, she'd fix you, so you better come. She didn't have to come fetch you. That's the kind of woman she was, had that much power before she died. White and colored would go to her. You sick in bed, she raised the sick. Conjure, hoodoo, that's what some people say, but that's what you call it, conjure. She could make a hand so you could win anybody's money. Take her hand with you, everybody's money with that spell. Had that much brains, smart lady. She'd break up all kind of spells you had. That's the kind of woman she was. Aunt Caroline Dye had that much sense." Some were skeptical, but many of the legends told about Dye feature her winning over non-believers. When a man named Jenkins White lost his hogs but said he didn't believe in that red-headed devil and refused to see her, he eventually gave in after not finding them. When he went to see her, Aunt Caroline surprised him by saying, and this is my quote, "So you finally want something from that old red-headed devil, huh?" and alerted him to the whereabouts of his animals. And that is Aunt Caroline Dye, a hidden figure. There will be tons of links and information in the description box, so please check those out. Food for thought as always, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another hidden figure. Peace.